Beautiful, elegant, graceful. The ninja's blade is poetry in motion. When wielded by a master, death itself becomes art.
Well, shit. If death is an art, I'm about to create a fucking masterpiece.
Jason, I think I have found my least favorite game of 2014 so far.
Really?
Yeah, like we did the review for South Park Stick of Truth, and that was
Yes.
like, at that point, that was the best game I played in 2014.
Yes.
I think that Yaiba, Ninja Gaiden Z, is the most irritating, fucked up, and stupid, overpriced game that I played so far this year.
Irritating, fucked up, stupid, and overpriced.
Oh yeah,
That's some harsh criticism.
well,
there.
let's get into it here on Rage Select. We're reviewing this stupid game. Let me just tell you. Let me give you the opening salvo before I had
give it to
even
me.
ever put this game into my console. I went and I bought it. And I brought it home, and as I had it, like had the game box, right? It was like a little heavier than normal.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, that's so weird. So I open it up, and what do I find inside? I've got the game disc.
Poop.
I've got the soundtrack disc.
Okay.
I've got the mini comic from Dark Horse,
Right.
and a bunch of papers, including a free code for character. Yaiba character costumes
Tofu.
in Dead or Alive 5.
Oh.
Like, when you shove that much extra shit in with a game, to me, what that says to me is like, we know this isn't worth $60, but here, we gave you all this other stuff to try to mollify. I don't fuck. I don't want the fucking soundtrack to this game. If I wanted that, I'd go buy it.
Coupon for an Asian massage.
Exactly. Like, it would just be like if they were just putting, there was just a $5 in
Yeah.
there with every game. Like,
Some couple of packets of horsey sauce.
right, here's a doobie. Just
Yeah, exactly.
please smoke this before you play this game, which you really shouldn't do because this game. All right, to quote,
Nobody calls it a doobie anymore, by the way.
oh yeah, I know that. To quote Danny Glover, I think I may be getting too old for this shit.
Oh?
For the Ninja Gaiden franchise.
Okay.
So we'll come back to that later. But first, let's set up the dumb fucking story of this dumb fucking game. All right. Sorry, I'm not going to be impartial on this. This game made me throw my controller 3 times while I was playing it.
Wow.
And I don't do that. So
I do. Sometimes when I'm not even playing games.
you just walk into your living room, pick up the
Yeah.
controller, and just throw it on the ground. You have. I like to imagine the Murphy reference. There's just a closet full of Xbox 360 controllers that are unopened.
Yeah.
You just go pull another one out.
I like to throw things. Allison likes to throw things.
Yeah.
We're throwers, the
Yeah.
Murphys.
So in this game, you play Yaiba Kamikaze, the blue ninja.
What?
Yep, that's what it says right there.
That's his name. Okay.
Now, this is going to be an example of this is the information that the game gives to you.
Okay.
You start the game, the opening cutscene is Yaiba Kamikaze. He's drinking in the forest. Ryu Hayabusa walks up, and he's like, fuck you, asshole, and we're going to fight. And he's brash, he's loudmouth, they have a fight, and he gets his ass kicked by Ryu from the Ninja Gaiden series.
Yes.
Okay? Now, I'm sure there's some dumb shit in the Dark Horse comic book to tell me why this guy is like this, but if you just play the game, he's just an asshole. Like, he has no redeeming qualities, and the fact that one of his primary motivations in this game is he wants to kill the beloved protagonist of the Ninja Gaiden franchise.
Okay.
You're like, why should I give a shit about this guy? Like, why would I want to go along on this guy's journey? I don't hate Ryu Hayabusa. I played him in, 3 of the current Ninja Gaiden games, a bunch of the old Ninja Gaiden games. Like, he's the protagonist. It would be like if
You've played him in at least 6 different games.
it would be like if you started up the new Zelda game and you were playing as like Tingle's asshole uncle, and your job was to go
Fuck Link.
Yeah, it was to go take down Link, and you'd be like, "Why? I don't have any problem with him," and you just seem like a jerk off. So anyway, he gets chopped in half. I'm not spoiling anything because this is literally the first 5 seconds of the game. Like, this is the pre-roll that it plays before you hit the start button. He gets chopped in half. This corporation run by this guy named Gonzo.
Okay.
Yeah, it takes you. They build you with a bunch of cyborg parts.
Ninjas.
Right. And they send you out. What's his name? This game is so forgettable. that. And then they send you out into Russia, where there's this zombie plague going on, and your handler is Miss Monday, who of course is just she's got her boobs hanging out, and
boobies.
She's got a tie that goes between her comically large boobs.
I saw that.
She's a scientist,
of course she is,
because she's got a white lab coat
she's
over.
a scientist like Denise Richards was in that James Bond movie.
Right.
I'm a nuclear scientist.
Yeah.
Sure you are.
Yeah. And you're being sent to Russia to essentially find the source of this zombie infection that is blowing everything up by your employers. And your motivation is that Ryu Hayabusa is also there trying to stop the zombie apocalypse. And so Yaiba wants to get revenge on him for cutting him in half. And your employer, this Gonzo dude, has a bomb built into your cybernetics that he'll blow up if you don't do what he says. So begrudgingly, Yaiba trots off down, into Russia to do the bidding of this guy. Once again, I'm going to take another opportunity to say that just in the setup for this plot, Ryu Hayabusa trying to save the world from zombie apocalypse. Our character trying to murder him, doesn't give a shit about anybody.
Okay.
And, I like Archer. I'm a fan of asshole protagonists, but this guy, he's just he's a jerk off, and it's like I don't know. That's one of the biggest stumbling blocks in this game that I had was I found myself just kind of slogging through it like, fucking whatever, because the main character, I don't give a shit. I don't even give a shit about what they're doing.
Sure.
So from there, you're dropped into the game. This is a third-person hack and slash kind of God of War, older Devil May Cry style. You got a light attack, you got a heavy attack, you got a spinning chain, pretty much directly God of War style Kratos attack. Yeah. You got a dash button. You can block. You do this stuff. So that's the meat of this game, but it is. I've played some of the other Ninja Gaiden games. Like I played Ninja Gaiden Sigma. I never finished it, but I got like 70% through it. I played 3. We reviewed 3. Remember?
Yep.
Like I'm not a stranger to these games and how difficult they can be, but this game suffers from like 2 to 3 things that made me throw my controller. These were the things that made me throw my controller. Number 1. No camera control, okay? So you got static camera angles pointing at the arenas where you're fighting stuff, which, this wouldn't be normally a big thing except for the fact that when the enemies are going to attack you, there's a moment when they're attacking where their hand will flash with this little white circle,
right?
And that's when they're going to hit you.
And sometimes you can't see it.
Sometimes that shit's so far away from the camera that I'm just and there's so many zombies all lined up that it's like I didn't even see that was going to happen, which is important because the way that you get upgrades in this game is that you want to keep your combo multiplier up. And they actually do something that I think is really interesting where your combo multiplier doesn't in most games you have a multiplier and then if you get out of combat for a while your multiplier drops and you got to start over again.
Yeah.
Well, here it always stays wherever it was until you get hit. So getting hit busts your multiplier, which busts the amount of your rating and the amount of points you get, which means that you're not going to be getting upgrades as quickly, which it turns out is really important in this game because of how difficult it starts to get. So camera, a serious problem. In fact, there's also a mechanic in this game where when you get an enemy down to a certain level of health, a little exclamation point will pop up on them, and if you hit the left trigger, you'll do an execution move. Which those become a little tiresome as you do them over and over again. But the benefit to that is that when you execute an enemy, they pop out health, first of all, and some of the stronger enemies even will pop out a weapon that you can pick up and use in place of your chain attack. Well, once again, sometimes you're so far away from the fucking camera that I don't see those things come up until it's too late. And I'm going to say right now that a lot of my complaints about this could definitely be down to Jeff's reflexes aren't what they used to be. Maybe people who play this sort of game all the time, maybe you guys had no problem whatsoever, but I found this to be intensely frustrating because it felt like the moment that I saw these markers on the screen was right before they went away. So I'd start hitting the button to either try to dodge away from an attack or do the execution moves, but it was too late by that point because I didn't have any control over the camera. That's my biggest problem with this game is the camera control.
You think we were past that? Because I haven't had any big camera control complaints in a long time.
I don't know why.
There was a period when that was like
static camera. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean when poor camera or lack of camera controls in a 3D game, when that was like the plague.
Right.
When that was affecting like every other game you played.
Yeah.
Like, remember Super Mario Sunshine?
Yeah, I do.
And how problematic that was. Mm-hmm. I had a big problem with Soul Reaver.
Yep.
So around that era, in that period of years right there, that was a huge problem. And you haven't seen it in a while. Now, you compared this to God of War.
Yes.
God of War has a static camera.
True.
But
well, it's the other thing is that, and this is a thing that I don't think this makes for an enjoyable game, and I'll say why. But one of the big differences here is that your attacks on enemies in this game. I was trying to figure out the best way to say this. The enemies' attacks always have priority over yours, and it's very difficult, or at least when I was playing the game, the move set that you get is one where it's hard. Like if you see an enemy winding up for a hit, right? It seems very difficult to stun them out of that to the point where you're not going to get hit. Like your option seems to be block, which in this case was on the right bumper on the Xbox controller, the R1, which just felt a little like I don't know. It felt a little weird. Like I think I would have rather had that on one of the face buttons almost, because you need to do it. Like there's a timing based aspect to it. So the thing is that the sense of power that you get from the character that you're playing, in my opinion, in this particular game, is somewhat minimal, because in God of War you would have heavy attacks that you could use to throw enemies back.
Sure.
Whereas here there's so many zombie enemies, or there's so many enemies that have just like completely unblockable attacks that just go through everything that you've got, that I found myself more often than not hitting a few times and then just trying to get away from everything to let these attacks play out, and then going back in and hitting, which to me is not what you want out of a game like this, because it breaks up the flow of action. As you're doing a little damage and then backing off, doing a little damage, backing off, doing a little damage, backing off. You want, at least for my money, what I enjoy these games more, it's when you're able to get in there and do all kinds of attacks. There's definitely ways to, you might have to dodge out and then dodge back in. But here, I felt like I spent more time on the run than anything else. Especially one of the first times that I hit one of the first major bosses was this mech. I won't say any more than that. And this thing was able to kill Yaiba in like 3 hits.
Wow.
And it took like 50 heavy attacks to destroy this thing. Mm-hmm. So I ended up playing that fight just over and over and over again until I got to the point where I finally was just like, well, I'm just going to get away from this thing, do one heavy attack that jumps in, and then get back and let it do all of its attacks, and then go back. So it made for a really dull combat flow, right? Because you're just attacking, backing up, attacking, backing up.
So it wasn't challenging like the previous Ninja Gaiden.
Oh, it was challenging as hell.
Well, it wasn't challenging, it was frustrating.
It was frustrating in that it seemed like every other enemy in the game was more powerful than Yaiba.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's because I picked the wrong upgrades on the upgrade tree, or they have a system in the game where each level has a number of hidden items that let you upgrade your health, and a number of items that will let you upgrade your resistances to elemental attacks. Because this game has a really heavy focus on the way that these elements that the zombies are infused with affect each other. So you've got lightning, you've got fire, and you've got acid. And so if you throw fire on lightning, it creates like a tornado of lightning fire, wherever that enemy is.
Right.
But these things that you pick up in the levels, they're all hidden. And what I got, the problem, one of the other problems that I had was there's no direct way to upgrade like your health or your resistances. You have to find these things in a level, but they're putting them they're hiding them, right? So if you don't pick them up, which I got maybe a quarter of the upgrades before I got to the last level, and I was having a really difficult time. So I don't know if the game expects you to go back and play and pick all these collectibles up, or if they just didn't tune the game to the point where if you don't pick these up, you're just kind of fucked at a certain point. You maybe need to go back and play that level over again. So I can see where if you're really hardcore into this series and like you thought Ninja Gaiden 3 was too easy, I think this is definitely harder than that game. Like I breezed through Ninja Gaiden 3. It wasn't really that big a deal.
Yeah.
I got seriously frustrated. Like this game is about 4 hours long. I probably spent at least 8 hours playing it because I kept dying and restarting the same area over and over and over again.
Which brings us to another point.
Yeah.
4 hours long.
Yeah. Not a whole hell of a lot Yeah, there's. I mean, like I said, there's collectibles in every level. There's, I don't know why video game industry, but there's a bunch of text logs that you can pick up that'll fill in the backstory that they didn't bother to put in. Actually, now that I mention it, there's only like one cinematic in this entire game in the very beginning where Ryu and Yaiba fight. All of the other cutscenes are like these stylized comic book panels,
like cell shaded,
right?
Kind of
that fly in, and they just they come in. They've got a little bit of voice acting, but they're not animated.
Yeah.
In fact, I was wondering, for this was developed by. I was kind of trying to figure this out. The development listing on Wikipedia for this is Team Ninja, Spark Unlimited, and Concept. And I don't know who decided to make this, but like I figured if we were going to have a busty researcher talking to us for the entire game, we were going to
get to see nipple.
There was at least going to be some of that Team Ninja. She's going to be animated. She's going to be moving around.
Little bouncy bust.
Exactly. And I'm not exactly saying like I feel ripped off because of that.
I do.
But there was just so much of this game that wasn't animated. It kind of goes back to the camera thing, right? Is you go like one of the reasons that you would maybe use a static camera would be so that you don't have to model the entire environment, right?
Yeah.
So and I'll tell you right now that the environments that they did put in the game, they are dull as fucking dishwater. They're just steps and platforms. I mean, there's nothing really interesting in the environment. There's actually several platforming sections where you'll jump up and you'll like run along a wall, then you'll jump to this wall, then you'll do a little hook around, blah, 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 blah. But all of those are basically, they're just glorified QuickTime events. Like you don't have any real agency over where you're going. You're going to go down this path, and if you miss a handheld, you just go, then you just start over and do the exact same thing over again. Which makes me wonder, why are they even in there in the first place? This is just, you're just running along this wall doing these things. It's not like you can do it a different way or you can do it any better. It's just moving from A to B through a corridor that's on fire or something like that. I mean, additionally, the tone of the game is like it's kind of trying to be grindhouse tongue-in-cheeky, like kind of trying to take the, as Nick would say, take the piss out of ninjas and stuff like that, but it doesn't really ever seem to work all that well. Like there's these...
Is it because you've seen that in so many games recently?
No, it's just like, I mean, it's like when you're watching something that is trying to be like that, but they just didn't get it totally.
Yeah.
Like, for example, there are zombie clowns. There's enemies that show up in the game all the time. And when you execute a zombie clown, you pull his arms off connected by his spine, and you use them as... Nunchuckles. Nunchuckles. Yeah. And the whole game is like that. I mean, there's just all this dialogue where they're trying... And I'll admit, like I ran across a zombie early on, and I had to pick up and throw at a wall, and he was just doing the Thriller dance. And I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. There's some of the stuff with the dumb zombies that's a little bit funny, but for the most part, it wasn't really funny. Because I had no connection with the main character, it wasn't really dramatic. Like, there's a point in the game where... I mean, this is not a spoiler. You're in Russia to hunt down Ryu Hayabusa. There's going to be some sort of interaction between the two of them. But when that happened, I was rooting for Ryu. I was just like, I hate my guy. Like, he's an asshole. In fact, at the end of that confrontation, he does this really, really asshole thing. In fact, you just watch the end of the game, and there's a point in there where I was like, you guys are assholes.
Yeah.
Like, just nobody's really all that funny. None of the jokes really, like, get you. It's not really super creative. It just seems like it's riding on the Ninja Gaiden name. And like I said, when I opened the box and I saw that other stuff, I just feel like this game is trying really hard to be like, please, 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 please like this game. Like, we had 1 year and no development budget. This is what we got. Please like it, They have quick time events when you rip the character's arms or whatever off to get their pieces as weapons. It's always the same thing. It's one button. You got to jam it to go all the way up. It's just not a very good game. It's also, I mean, this kind of depends on your penchant for cell shading. I thought it was kind of ugly too. There's just, they're using cell shading.
Watching it, it did not look like a next gen game.
Well, this is PlayStation 3, Xbox 360.
No, that's right. Okay,
right. This is technically previous generation, right?
Yeah,
I guess, or current. I don't even know what to make of that.
Yeah. Still, though, it
It's
didn't
just not
look
really,
good.
Not really good looking.
I've seen much better looking games on the PS3 and the Xbox 360.
Yeah, kind of dull environment. I've seen Ninja Gaiden games look better that are
absolutely.
more crisp, that run at like 60 frames a second instead of
Yeah.
30 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It just, none of it really did anything for me, and I couldn't wait. I could not wait for it to be over. Which, we've got all these other games that are coming out. I played this at E3, and the part that I played, I was like, I don't know, this kind of has potential a little bit. But as the game goes on...
I walked by it at E3.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Do you want to give your review?
My review was, no.
I walked by this at E3.
That was it.
So once you beat the game, there's not a whole hell of a lot, so you can go back and pick up collectibles. I don't know. This one just... I maybe would be even more willing to give this thing a little bit of a pass if it was like $30 or it was a $20 download game or something like that.
It's full price. It's $60.
Fucking $60.
That's
yeah,
a lot.
Like, well, you know what? I'm going to verify that real fast just because I don't want to.
Yeah. No, good call.
I don't want to be telling tales.
You don't want to say, when was the last time we saw a Native American protagonist in a video game?
Shut up, Jason. Well, Amazon's got it on sale for $40. I still think that's too.
Well, it says regular price is $60.
Yeah, I still think that's too much. Anyway, the game. Okay, here's what let me tell you some good stuff about the game. The voice acting, while the lines are stupid, is not bad. We're not talking like it's competent voice acting. The score was pretty good. There was some thumping kind of metal in the background that was all right. It isn't broken.
Yeah,
it didn't set my Xbox on fire. It didn't actually punch me in the balls, and that's about all I got.
Okay. It didn't punch you in the balls. How many stars do you give it?
I'm going to give this 2 stars because it's not broken. It's just shitty. And I'm sure that some people out there may really enjoy this for the challenge, but I didn't.
Is this the lowest rating you've ever given a game on the loading bar? Or on... Oh!
On the what?
Oh! What? Flashback. Wow, you'd think I would have gotten past that by now.
Last week when we were doing the podcast, by the end I was so delirious that I almost said, send your email. Then I almost listed off the email address for another podcast that I listened to. I'm going to give it 2 stars. That is the lowest rating because this is, right now, I haven't had a chance to play that many crappy games because my time is so limited.
Yeah.
This one I bought so that we could play it on the dojo, and I decided to play it because it was only 4 hours long. I had nothing but a shitty time while I was playing it. I just did not enjoy it whatsoever.
2 stars.
2 stars. Not broken. Broken is 1 star. Offensive to mankind is 0 stars.
I think the franchise is in need of a serious reboot.
I don't know where to go from here. Hayabusa, I don't know. I have no idea. But it's not this. I can tell you that.
2 stars, fools.
2 stars, fools.
Game over.
Ugh, I feel like shit.